So today, it's really my great pleasure. I'm so excited that Jorge Cortés Nunez agreed to give a presentation for us today with his perspective on deep sea research in Costa Rica as an example to talk about the importance of international collaboration. I'm sure we'll learn more about where Jorge is coming from and his journey through science along this. So without further ado, Jorge, I will turn it over to you to begin your presentation. And you'll need to unmute your microphone.
Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, that looks great, Jorge. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this invitation. A great honor for me to be here with you today at this COBRA monthly webinar. And as Beth mentioned, I'll just very briefly talk about research, deep sea research in Costa Rica, in which I've been involved. There's more, but that would take a long time. And the importance of collaboration. So I'll just mention briefly about Costa Rica and its oceans, deep sea research in a small developing country, and the importance of collaboration. Costa Rica is 92% sea. It's a small country in Central America between Nicaragua and Panama, but with a very large, proportionally very large marine area for the country. And one of the things we've been doing for the last decades is to make Costa Ricans more aware of this reality that we're more a marine country than a mountain country, as most Costa Ricans see ourselves. And that we have borders not only with Nicaragua and Panama, but also with Colombia and Ecuador. And we've been pushing for this map for the last almost 35 years. And finally, it's been accepted by the government and the Ministry of Education. So this is the map people in Costa Rica are seeing now. But it's not only proportionally a large marine area, but 63% is below 2,000 meters. Over a third is below 3,000 meters. And the deepest point, we think it's about 4,900 meters. And I say we think because there are no good bathymetric charts from many of these areas around here. And I put that as a reference. The highest point in Costa Rica is 3,820 meters. So this country is deeper than its high. So and this type of data has had a big impact in presentations I do here for other Costa Ricans and for the government, because they don't think of that, not only that it's huge sea, but that it's very deep, most of it. And what I'll talk today is this 4 projects I've been involved in recent years, all on the Pacific side of Costa Rica. And I'm going to start with the Isla del Coco, which is 500 kilometers offshore. Then we'll move into methane seeps along the Central Pacific coast. Then we'll visit seamounts all the way from the coast to Isla del Coco, which is out here. And the final project will be the Pampa Submarina, the submerged or deep Pampa that we worked last year. So Isla del Coco is an oceanic island, 500 kilometers offshore. It's a very small island. It's 24 square kilometers. We've got very interesting vegetation, and it's rains a lot in this island. That's why it's completely covered with forest, as opposed to the other islands in the Eastern Pacific, like the Galapagos or Revillagigedo or Martello in Colombia, which are very dry. This one has a lot of water. So it's been of interest from way back, from sailboats of getting to a place like this where they can find water, fresh water, and wood to repair their ships. And the marine environment is very rich. It's one of the places with higher diversity in the Eastern Pacific. And there I had a chance to use this little submarine, which was used, belonged to this company, the Undersea Hunter Group. And they worked on the island for several years. And it was for tourists. So there's a pilot there and two persons that sit there. And I've made a deal with them. So this is academia, private enterprise, to let us use all their images and use the submarine once in a while. And when it had a limited capability for collecting, but we were able to collect some organisms. And so it was a research project, and the tourists that paid for maintaining the submarine were like the donors of the project. So that worked very nice, and we got lots of images which were still processing and being published in catalogs like this. This was work I did with students, and so now we have images of in this case gelatinous zooplankton, and it starts giving us an idea of what's down there, down to 450 meters. We have one on sharks and rays, fish also, and one of the main discoveries, or probably the most one significant, is this, by my colleague Alice Cabridi. That when they saw the image, it was they knew it was a new species, but when they started working on it, it was a new genus, and did some more work on it, and it's a new family of octocorals. And I use this example as a measure of how ignorant we are of what's down there. And this was collected at 300 meters. But we should go deeper. And I had that opportunity some years ago when we went to the Central Pacific to the methane seeps. Was invited by Eric Cortés, and I saw he's there. Good to see you. And this area has been visited before, and it's where the Cocos Plate, which is this one, with all these sea mounts, which I'll talk up later, subduct under the Caribbean plate and leave these scars on the continental ice. And when this happens, methane starts coming out. And there's a whole communities there that was studied by German groups many years ago. They found them, and then Lisa Levin and her group in the 2009, 2010 did a lot of pioneering work in here. And then we went back in 2017 and 2018 with the Atlantis, using Alvin. And in 2017, my colleague Aliska and myself, we were invited as observers, which is part of the requirements in Costa Rica to have Costa Rican observers. So we went as observers, but I was interested in being more than just an observer. And it was a great team. Eric was the chief scientist, and Lisa, Victoria, Greg, Shana, well, let's go with there. It was an excellent expedition. And initially I talked with Eric about having some projects from the University of Costa Rica, and he was very supportive of that. And then had a meeting with all the rest of the chief scientists, and they all agreed. So for 2018, before the 2018 expedition, I talked with colleagues from University of Costa Rica for a series of projects and samples that we would be interested in collecting during the 2018 expedition. And at these places, the methane seeps are extremely interesting places. Have symbiotic tube worms and bivalves, plus interesting diversity of organisms that feed on the bacteria and archaea. and the famous Kiwa Pura Vida, which is the jetty crab that was described from this region in Costa Rica. And we found it only in one place at 1,000 meters there. And then so 2018, we have our own projects. And that year we presented a proposal to Schmidt Ocean Institute to use the Falcor with the same team, but now I'm not an observer anymore, but another part of the team. And as another of the scientists. And in that project, we wanted to visit seamounts because we previously briefly visited some of the seamounts here and found that they were extremely interesting places. So in this expedition that was, again, the leader, chief scientist was Eric Cortés, we visited many seamounts between the coast and Isla del Coco, which is here, and even farther south from Isla del Coco, and also looked at the abyssal plains. And in this case, we used the Falcor, what they call now the Falcor Classic, and that was January 2019 with Sebastian, which is the one still used, but it has been updated. And so we went to several of these seamounts, and it was surprised that surprising the amount of life that we found on these seamounts. And for me, it was very special because from the methane seeps, I have seen photographs and videos and publications, but no one has been to these seamounts before. So it was just impressive to see the diversity of organisms in this place and realize that this is a part of my country. And that's what we've been using all these images and videos to create more conscience of what we have. And the abyssal plains were also amazing, just very strange creatures and jellyfish sitting on the bottom and all sorts of organisms there. And one of our projects was collecting sediment samples. So we're looking at different sort of groups, different groups that live in these soft sediments at 2,000 to 3,000 meters there. And then the last project is out here. It's about 200 kilometers from the coast in what we call the Pampa Submarina, and that we officially proposed the name to the National Committee of Nomenclature, and it was accepted. And we were visiting small mounds out there that are mostly around 3,000 meters. And these mounds go from a couple hundred meters to the highest was 1 kilometer. And so we went through all their names and what has been used before and made an official proposal that has been accepted now. So that was also an interesting experience and doing that, putting names. And people ask me, why do you want to put names of things that are 3,000 meters there? And so, well, it's the same as we put names to mountains, and we look around, and it's not just any mountain, but that's Vulcanirazu or Chirripó or whatever, and you identify it's becomes part of what we are as Costa Ricans, and that's the idea of these deep areas. And for this one, we used the Falcor 2, and we had 2 expeditions in June and December 2023, and with this updated Sebastian. And originally, this expedition was going to be in 2020. And you know what happened in 2020 with the pandemic, and it's just postponed. But in the meantime, Schmidt Ocean Institute changed the vessel from the previous one, which was relatively small vessel, to this large vessel, and that opened the opportunity for more Costa Ricans to participate in this expedition. And that made a big change for us and for the whole group that is working with deep water samples now. And this was led by Beth, very, very well led. And I was invited to be co-chief scientist with her. And we had a big group. And in December expedition, half of the students and scientists were from Costa Rica, which has never happened in any of the expeditions. We normally to be 2 at the most from Costa Rica, but this time it was this big group, and that was a big change. And we did a lot of missions in Spanish, which were very well accepted by many people in the country and in Latin America. And the other big change is that all the samples collected are at the Museum of Zoology at the University of Costa Rica. So everything that was collected is now deposited here in Costa Rica. It's part of our, so in English, patrimony. I'm not sure if that's the word in English, of our natural heritage. And there's different people working on them, from scientists to students, and we are open to receive visitors from anywhere that they come to work with these collections here in the country. And we're working on some plans of how to set up possibilities of workshops and funding to bring specialists to work here. And last year, between expeditions, Janet Boyd from the Chicago Film Museum was here, and it was very good to have her here and interact with one of our students, which is now she's convinced that she want to work with DeepSea octopus. And it was a big finding that probably 4 new species of octopus in that small area that we explored. And that's where we were going to look for. 10 years ago, Beth and others went to this place, and they saw the octopus, and apparently the eggs were not viable. And some papers were published, but then finally we were able to make it there last year. And we were a bit tense of we were going to find the octopus first. The whole expedition was Octopus Odyssey. But we found the octopus, and not only that, but we saw the babies coming out. And that was you can imagine, it was great. It was seeing that. But then just looking around, it's just impressive, the diversity that we found in these places at 3,000 meters. And we collected some of the organisms. One of our students, Leonardo, is working with these sea cucumbers, and many other people are working with different groups of organisms. And there's probably many new species. And what's nice with Sebastian is that it can stop relatively easy at midwater, going down or coming up. So we have also a lot of images and some samples from the water column. And then again, the diversity of organisms that we saw was very impressive. And for example, things like this jellyfish with parasites, which is not very common to see. But we only saw one, or at least I only saw one with this with parasites. But it was just impressive amount of organisms there. And probably that's related to oceanographic phenomenon they're called the Costa Rica thermal dome, which is an upwelling phenomenon out in the ocean, and that brings a lot of nutrients and very high productivity to the surface water. And to finish, I want to just mention 2 songs, and titled 2 songs, and the first one is by the Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might just get what you need. And the message here is you got to work in it. You got to connect with people, talk with people, attend international meetings, and talk of what you have. And if you have some information, publish it. Don't keep it, because the only way to other people to know what we're doing is through publication. So that's the first message. And the other one is Bob Marley and the Wailers, and it's get up, stand up for your rights. And it's don't be afraid to ask. And we have the same types of degrees, probably from same universities. So don't be afraid. And from my, I used to be called third world country, which is not politically correct now, developing country, something like that. People are many times are afraid to ask for more or negotiate, participating more actively in these expeditions. And my message is do it. And especially if the expedition is in your country and it's a country which will never have the capability of working into these deep areas. Costa Rica will never have vessels like the Atlantis or the Falkers. So we need to collaborate. We need to participate, and especially in the workup, the little group at the beginning, something very interesting, and is the ideal will be to participate in the formulation of the project, and not once the project has been formulated to be invited, but be part of that original formulation of the projects. And I want to thank everyone that have given me this great opportunity to participate in these expeditions and getting to know my country and letting us show that to other Costa Ricans and to the world of what we have. And not only for Costa Rica, but for the ocean. We need to do that. And I want to acknowledge the University of Costa Rica, which have been very supportive for since I started there more than 40 years ago. The Undersea Hunter Group, which is this private enterprise for their help. Of course, Mid Ocean Institute and Blue Nature Alliance also collaborated with some funds. And COBRA for this invitation, giving me the opportunity to talk about these topics, which I think is central to work. And especially now, for example, with the Falcor 2 that's going around the world. And now it's working off Chile, and it's going to be working off Argentina, and it will be moving around. And insist that there should be a lot of people from those countries participating in these expeditions. And if they have the capabilities to store and maintain the collections, those collections should stay in the countries. Thank you very much.